The lecture is on the topic of initial problems of Pakistan at the time of partition 1947. Pakistan and India were divided under 3rd June Plan 1947. Radcliffe Award came in August 1947 and it demarcated the boundaries between East Pakistan and West Pakistan. It is essential to know that Pakistan and India did not come into existence in any vacuum. Both political parties which were struggling for the freedom of India, they had two different stances. All Indian National Congress wanted united India and Muslim League wanted partition of India, so it partitioned. So when Pakistan came into existence, then there were some historians amongst the Hindu community and leaders of the All Indian National Congress who believed that All India Muslim League, which had become now All Pakistan Muslim League, could not maintain this newly independent state. So there are evidences in the history that some of them expressed their biased opinion about the future of this newly born state Pakistan. For example, one historian has since stated, quote, most of leaders of Congress subscribed to the view that Pakistan was not a viable state, politically, economically, geographically, or militarily, and that sooner or later the areas which had ceded would be compelled by force of circumstances to return to the fold, unquote. This source of history reveals that Congress and Indian bureaucracy, they created certain problems which they believed might force Pakistan to rejoin India. But it was the challenge that Quaid-e-Azam accepted, his team accepted, and they made utmost efforts. And now Pakistan is a reality on the map of the world. So let's see what were the major problems of Pakistan when it came into existence. Number one, geographical problems. Pakistan was consisted on two different regions, one located to the east borders of India, and it was known as East Pakistan, that was created by dividing Bengal into two parts. Though Calcutta was not part of it, as already we had discussed in Radcliffe Award, that it was awarded to India. And the second part of Pakistan was consisted on four major regions, Punjab, Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, and also the princely states of Dir, Swat, Chitral, Hunza, and Bahawalpur, Khairpur, that joined Pakistan. So geographically, Pakistan had a very unique location in the map of the world. It was divided by 1,000 miles territory of India. So you may say Pakistan had two wings. It's a right wing, it's a left wing, and between them there was a territory of India consisted on stretching 1,000 miles that separated Pakistan from east to west Pakistan. So this geographical location was indeed a very serious administratively, politically, and economically, culturally, linguistically, it was a very important issue how to keep them intact, because these four provinces of West had four different languages, four different cultures, and East Pakistan had different language, different culture, and only the common element was Islam among them, and the fervor and that zeal that Pakistan they had achieved through the struggle. So this was one of the major problem, how to protect them, how to defend them, how to keep them contacted. So it was the first issue. Number two, political problems. In 1947, when this partition came into currency and but it was implemented and two states were created, the most important issue was how to govern these newly independent states, because Lord Mountbatten uh, announced this partition of plan uh, before any preparation were made by Congress and Muslim League regarding their constitution. So the very important political problem that both the countries had to face, it was lack of their own constitution. So when Pakistan and India came into existence, both countries, India and Pakistan, they adopted 1935 India Act as an interim constitution of the state to run the business. So Pakistan modified 1935 India Act according to its own needs and requirements. So that was implemented as the temporary constitution until unless Pakistan frame its own constitution. Second important issue was the political legacy by the political parties. India inherited government buildings, furnitures, even officials from the British. They left in India, and you know the literacy rate amongst the Muslims was very low, and the Muslims were not working in the official as an officials and clerks in the offices. So Pakistan was in short of uh, the administrative force or the supporting staff for running the business. And then Indian had officials, members of the Indian National Congress. They were political experienced and had take over the governments. So the political experience of the Congress who took over India was far ahead than the Muslim League, because Congress had been in power for several years in different governments in different provinces, but Muslim League couldn't get this chance properly. So when they came into power, there was another political issue, that how to govern the state by the political leadership. The Congress leadership was more trained politically, more aware politically, more, committed. As far as Pakistan Muslim League leadership, they mostly belonged to the feudal strata of the society, and they had lack of experience in the governments. So their mentality or their mindset was entirely different from the Congress, and it created later problems within the political ambit of Pakistan. And then uh, the geographical distance between East and West Pakistan made it difficult to govern as one country. An important point is the Bengalis were more politically aware, more politically committed, and the West Pakistanis, as already I have mentioned, they were feudals, and their mindset was entirely different from the Bengalis. So when Pakistan came into existence and the political arena of Pakistan history started, so that was important factor which played the role in the future, and we would see it in the next lessons. Pakistan lacked both the administrative and governmental machinery to establish the system of government in Pakistan. So Quaid-e-Azam would need to find a capital Therefore, he decided to establish Karachi as the first capital of Pakistan. He chose capital Karachi because Karachi was the largest populated city and most developed at the time of partition. There were only 8 important cities in Pakistan: West Pakistan, Karachi, Hyderabad, Multan, Peshawar, Quetta, Lahore, and Dhaka. So in within this, so 90% population lived in the rural areas and only 10% was residing in the urban cities. So that was another issue for Pakistan, how to establish its balance and how to develop the poor regions to bring them to the level of the developed cities. Economic problems were and other issues, because when Pakistan came into existence, uh, the most important issue for Pakistan was the economic resources and financial resources to run the newly born state. Uh, Pakistan was made up of states that were mostly underdeveloped and they had no proper, infrastructure, industrial infrastructures, transport, roads, and other basic necessities of life were in shortage in this region. So, important data that shows us about the economic assets of Pakistan after partition is important to know. Industrial enterprises only 10%, and industrial workers 6.5%, electricity capacity 5%, mineral deposits 10%, which were located in West and East Pakistan. And most of the economy and its sector were agro-based, and agriculture was the main source of income, while still we are heavily dependent upon agriculture that is known as the backbone of Pakistan economy. So at the time of partition, the main issue was the financial and economic resources of Pakistan and to explore more vistas for developing them. Third is the social problems. The society which new came into existence after the partition of Pakistan, it had a background of united India, and where the Hindus and the Muslims they were living together. But the important problem was that now Pakistan was achieved on ideological on the basis of an ideological theory, two nation theory. And this two nation theory actually worked at that time when Hindus and were Muslims were together. When Pakistan came into existence, there were alarming social problems, and social problems were due to the difference of language. For example, East Pakistan, which constituted more than 56% population of Pakistan, had only one language, and that was Bengali. And Bengalis were very, nationalistic. They possessed a very nationalistic aptitude and attitude and behavior about their language. They possessed it as their first language of Pakistan. And other four provinces, Pakhtunkhwa, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, Punjab, Sindh, and even that is now Kashmir. They have different regional languages. So the very first social issue was which was must be the language of Pakistan. So Pakistan decided to adopt Urdu language. So in 1948, addressing the students of the Dhaka University, Mr. Jinnah announced that Urdu would be the national language of Pakistan. When he did it so, there started a movement in East Pakistan, and they bitterly opposed that Urdu shouldn't be the national language. Bengali must be given the status of the second national language as well. In 1951, when the first Basic Principle Committee presented the report on for the future constitution, so then there happened a very huge strike in Dhaka and other cities of Bengal. Even the political parties, all political parties and administrative, officials, including police, they went on to strike. So, as a prominent member of the Constituent Assembly of 1951, he said, quote, Pakistan is a unique country having two wings which are separated by more than 1,000 miles. The two wings differ in all matters except two things, namely that they have a common religion bearing a section of the people in East Pakistan, and we have achieved independence by a common struggle. All other factors, the language, the tradition, the culture, the custom, the dietary habits, the calendar, the standard time, practically everything is different. So he rightly pointed out that only common thing was Islamic faith, but other all important elements necessary for our society were missing in this newly born state and its structures. So that is important issue, how to resolve it. Therefore, Pakistani political leadership tried to create the Pakistani nationalism and its spirit amongst the people. But how did they succeed it, and how did they remain successful? This is the important question to explore, because that common binding force, Islam, could not maintain and could not keep this Pakistan united, because all other factors played the role. And ultimately in 1971, East Pakistan segregated from West Pakistan. Another important issue was the accession of the princely states. There were 630, in some books 462 princely states. They were present at the time of partition in United India. Under India Act of Independence 1947, it was provided that the princely states could join either either Pakistan or India, but their rulers had to care about their location, geographical annexations of the area within the newly independent states and the wishes of the people of the state. Out of 462 states, only 3 states became bone of contention between India and Pakistan. One was Hyderabad, Deccan, Junagadh, and the third was Kashmir. So let's start from Hyderabad. Hyderabad was located in the mid of south of India, and His Exalted Highness Nizam of Hyderabad first demanded the dominion status for the state that was not accepted by the British and the Indians. Later he decided to annex it with Pakistan. So he wrote a letter to Jinnah, and Jinnah accepted it. However, the British Governor General Lord Mountbatten and the Indian officials decided that Hyderabad Deccan could not be annexed with Pakistan because that was situated within India. Its population is more than 90% Hindu, and the geographical location did not allow to be part of Pakistan. So they besieged and controlled it, and ultimately Nizam of Hyderabad had to sign agreement with that, and it was annexed with India. The Junagadh, that was situated on the south west coast of India, its Diwan and its Prime Minister Mir Shah Nawaz Bhutto, they wrote a letter to Jinnah for annexation, but the same happened with Junagadh. Like Hyderabad Deccan, India also captured it on the pretext that it was part of the Indian territory, majority is Hindu, so it couldn't be annexed. So they violated the clause of the Indian Independence Act that they might join, but they used the pretext that of population in region. Third state was Kashmir. Kashmir actually was located to the north of India and Pakistan. According to the geographical location, all the land routes go to Kashmir from currently Pakistan. Gurdaspur, that was included into Indian East Punjab, was the only land route that connects India with Kashmir. So when 1947 partition was announced, so on 27th October 1947, the Muslim Kashmiris launched a freedom movement against the Raja Hari Singh Dogra, and that is the beginning of the freedom movement in Kashmir. So it is found in the history that Mujahideen captured Srinagar. Then he wrote, he sent a request to Lord Mountbatten for supporting him and liberating Srinagar. In the response, the British Governor General of India replied that you had to sign an accession with India. So Krishnan VP Menon, he came from India, who was the minister for the princely states to Srinagar. He got the sign on the letter of an accession that India sent its army into Srinagar and they liberated it. So in April 1948, the war between India and Pakistan was first time fought on the boundary of Kashmir. Later, Nehru took it into the Security Council, where it was discussed and a resolution was passed that India and Pakistan must go for the ceasefire, and then there came a ceasefire. Since then to now, United Nations has passed several resolutions about plebiscite in Kashmir. In the beginning, India accepted it, Pakistan also accepted it. Liaquat Nehru meeting held about it, and India got the time and delayed it, and now more than half of the Kashmir is under the occupation of India, and rest of the Kashmir is known as Azad Jammu Kashmir, which is part of Pakistan. Kashmir is a disputed territory between these two newly born states at that time and still now. So it needed to resolve, but India delayed it, and Pakistan also tried to resolve it through the resolutions, and Kashmiris had their own freedom movement within there. It is important that Kashmir issue must be resolved if there should be the peace in this region. It is not possible without resolution of the Kashmir. Another important issue was the division of the financial assets and military assets. In the Reserve Bank of India, Pakistan had a share of 750 million rupees that were to be given to Pakistan. At the time of partition, the conference held between the Finance Minister of India and the Finance Minister of Pakistan, and India paid only 200 million to Pakistan. Later, India refused to pay 500 million rupees to Pakistan and demanded the war must be stopped on Kashmir because India wanted to exploit the situation of Kashmir. Through this money, they blocked. And the role of Mohanchand Karamdas Gandhi in the history is really appreciable because he went on to hunger strike. He exerted full pressure upon the British, on the Indian government, and then the 500 rupees were released to Pakistan. At the time of the partition, India created this deliberately because they knew the financial situation of Pakistan is very weak, and Pakistan couldn't sustain if they were not given the financial assistance. So it is also a fact that when this was happening, the Nizam of Hyderabad was requested by Jinnah, and Pakistan borrowed 200 million rupees from Nizam of Hyderabad to run the state business. As so far as concerned the military assets, this is important fact in the history that the British commanders and the Hindu officials, they knew very well that partition was imminent. So before the partition, they shifted the best weapons were available in this region of Pakistan to central India. There were 4 ordnance factories in India which were located in central India. Most of the cantonments and the soldiers, they were recruited, they were located in India, and so soldiers were recruited from the Sikh community, Gorkhas and Marathas, and from Potwar. So when Pakistan came into existence, the division of the military assets was to be on the ratio of 36% for Pakistan and 44% for India. If we have a brief look upon the division of some military assets, for example, armored division, Pakistan owned 6 and India owned 14. Artillery division, Pakistan owned 8 and India 40. Infantry division 8 and India 21. So this reveals that militarily Pakistan was very weak at the time of partition. The soldiers who worked in the Indian army, they were allowed to join on the basis of their faith and religion or on their own will. So 150,000 Muslim soldiers, they joined Pakistan army. So at the time of partition, the number of Pakistan army was 150,000 in total, and it needed 4,000 officials and officers to lead them. But Pakistan had only 2,500 Muslim officers. 1,500 officers were required. Pakistan hired 500 British officers and 1,000 remained in the shortage. So all the three chiefs of the army armed forces, Gracie, armed chief of army staff, air force and others, they were naval forces, they were the British. All 16 ordnance factories that were located in India, and it refused to hand over any to Pakistan. So later Pakistan and India agreed, and eventually India had to pay 60 million rupees in lieu of handing over ordnance factories. So then Pakistan established its first ordnance factory at Wah, and that is now providing. The other important issue was the canal water dispute. When Radcliffe Award was announced, then 6 rivers which flowed from Kashmir, which were flowing from Kashmir to Pakistan, they had very natural division. Eastern rivers, Beas, Satluj and Ravi, they came to Pakistan after crossing the Indian Punjab territory. When Gurdaspur was handed over to them, Jalandhar, Amritsar and its tehsils were given to them. So 3 rivers went into their control, and rest of the 3, Chenab, Jhelum and Indus, they flow from west part of Pakistan. So it created a canal water dispute. There was established a water arbitrary commission. It had to decide the division of the river waters by 30th March 1948. India delayed the process and waited for the expiry of the commission. So when commission expired on 1st April 1948, India stopped flowing water from the headworks of Ravi, Satluj and Beas. That created a scarcity of water in east part of Punjab in Pakistan, and from Lahore to Bahawalpur, the situation became worst. Agriculture in Pakistan was devastated, and Pakistan came under the shortage of river waters. Negotiations started to resolve this issue in on 1st January 1949. Under international pressure, India released water, but still it was one of the major issue between East and between India and Pakistan. In 1959, Indus Water Treaty was signed, and this canal water dispute was resolved when, under the auspices of the World Bank, this agreement came into practice. Under this, 3 rivers were given to India, Ravi, Satluj and Beas, and 3 were allocated to Pakistan. And then Pakistan was given loans by the World Bank, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, America, USA and UK, and then Pakistan established 7 link canals. and two dams, Mangla and Tarbela, and then Pakistan overcame the problem of its canal water disputes. And this problem was created only due to unjust decision of Radcliffe Award. Had there not been given Gurdaspur Muslim majority district to India, Kashmir issue and river water dispute couldn't occur. The last part of our lesson is refugees and the accommodation problem. When this partition occurred, history proves that the world's largest migration ever seen happened between India and Pakistan. The Hindus who lived in West Pakistan and East Pakistan, they migrated to India, and from India the Muslims were migrating to Pakistan. It was one of the largest migration, and that migration led towards the massacres and the riots between the Hindus and the Muslims. So when it started, then 20 million people were made homeless, and both India and Pakistan faced enormous problems as huge number of refugees fled to them for safety. Only Karachi received nearly 2 million refugees in 1947. 68,000 people were killed, and more than 5 lakh people, they were injured, looted, pirated. Families were destroyed. Their kith and kins missed during this. Trains were attacked, and this issue was resolved in 1950 when Liaquat and Nehru signed a pact which is known in the history as Liaquat-Nehru Pact. Under this, it was decided that now no more migration would be without visa from Pakistan to India and India to Pakistan, and their armies would protect them. And then also it was decided that a mechanism of the allocation of the properties would be set up to create the division of and allocation of the properties left over by Hindus and Muslims in both countries. So then this migration stopped. Pakistan came up over to this problem through the allocating of the properties to the Hindus and the Muslims. Now, these were the major problems which Pakistan faced at the time of the creation of Pakistan. So the question in the Cambridge paper is usually given, what were the initial problems of Pakistan? Explain. If the question is of 14 marks, you need to answer all these problems in the detail, and your level must be 10 to 12. But if they select the question for 7 marks, then you need to give 6 or maximum 6 to 7 reasons, and your level must be at the level of 9 to 10 to get 7 out of 7. As far as concerns the candidates of the CSS examination, they needed to supplement this basic information by studying different books, and the recommended books for them are the Ayn Talbot's book, Lawrence Ziering's Pakistan in the 20th Century. They may go for the book of Pakistani historians. They provide them ample information about it. The second part of this lecture is regarding the role of Jinnah. What was the role of Jinnah as a governor general, as a builder, as a father of the nation? So Jinnah played all the 3 roles. He visited the refugees camps and gave them the encouragement and promised them to settle their issues. He also established Quaid-e-Azam Relief Fund and demanded the state and the people of Pakistan to donate 1 rupee. That means at that time 7 crore people were total population of Pakistan. So we believe that if 1 rupee was donated in his relief fund, Pakistan would have ample money to resolve the issues. He also set up the State Bank of Pakistan inaugurated it on 1st July 1948 and guided the nation about the future economic system and financial resources of Pakistan. He also addressed the public servants and advised them that you are no more ruler, you are public servants. He addressed to the first Constituent Assembly, where he guided about the parliamentary form of government, where he guided about there no place for theocracy in Pakistan, where he guided about how to curb the nepotism, favoritism and corruption in Pakistan. He also guided about the language, he also guided about the socio-economic system of Pakistan. He advised the students to work and study only. He declared them the future. He gave very straightforward guidance about the role of the woman in Pakistan. He believed in this conviction. Without women and their participation in the national process of economic development, Pakistan could not become a developed and civilized nation. He emphasized upon the education of the women. He also sent his message to the first educational conference held in November 1947 at Karachi, and the first education minister, he read his message there. We guided that education is essential, and he also emphasized upon education for all and technical and vocational education. He guided about the foreign policy of Pakistan. He received the credentials from Irani ambassadors, from Turkish ambassadors, from American ambassadors, and he decided that Pakistan would adopt for non-aligned status in the world. Jinnah also led the nation about the future constitution that must be developed on and frame on the basis of a parliamentary form of constitution. The role of Jinnah was as a father, as a leader, and as a builder. He advised the army that you are defender of the state, not the rulers, and history provided us several examples that he also snubbed some officers who tried to convince him about the role of army in the politics. He very clearly stated that you are only the defenders. You had to be professional and to defend the state, not to participate in the politics. He advised the bureaucracy that government would keep on changing. You shouldn't be politicized. A political bureaucracy can lead Pakistan towards the development. So Jinnah's role is as a Governor General, as a father, as a ruler, as a founder of Pakistan was very prominent at the time. Though Pakistan had the problem that he had got tuberculosis when Pakistan did not come into existence, but he concealed it and he achieved Pakistan. He died on 11th September 1948 due to tuberculosis, and then started a new political era in Pakistan. Jinnah also helped in the framing of the first cabinet and government of Pakistan. He chose Liaquat Ali Khan as the first Prime Minister of Pakistan. He assisted him in the selection of the ministers and guided him about that. So the role of Jinnah in the beginning was the role of a founder of the state who wanted what kind of Pakistan. He gave his vision in the first speech which he made on 11th August 1947 to the first Constituent Assembly that already we have discussed in briefly. So this lecture is summed up. I believe that you will benefit out of it, and if you like this lecture, then keep on subscribing my channel and sharing it with your friends and students and candidates of the CSS for their benefit. Thank you.